I'm with Terry Madonna today, and Dr. Terry Madonna, the Franklin and Marshall pollster and political science professor there, commentator, and we're coming off the victories by Joe Biden in 3 states again, in Florida, in Illinois, and also in Arizona. And Terry, is it safe to say that Joe Biden is a lock now, or is there still some time to go that Bernie Sanders might have a chance in this Democratic race?
No, it doesn't look like Bernie has a chance. I mean, it's just not that Joe Biden won. He won by 23 points in Illinois. He won even larger in Florida, where he won by 39 points. And then let's throw in Arizona, where he won by 12 points. He has a 300 delegate vote lead. 300 delegates, and he's up, depending on the counting, to about 1,121 delegates. 1,121 delegates of the 1,991, and it's certainly over. The real question is, does Bernie get out, or does he continue? He didn't sound like it last night, where he talked about what to do about the coronavirus. And imagine this, as you know well, covering campaigns for decades. I mean, this is now virtual campaigning. I mean, there are no audiences, there are no folks in front of the candidates when they're speaking. It's all virtual. It's all streaming and internet, and it's highly unusual, without any crowds, without any enthusiasm. Although I will tell you, I don't have the exact numbers, but it looks like the turnout was pretty strong in the 3 states yesterday. But then you have the coronavirus problem, and you have one state after another now changing their primary dates. Moving them forward in the calendar. In addition to that, the next big one is April 14th, where we have Alaska, Hawaii, Louisiana was scheduled. They moved their date in Wyoming. And so it's probably down to April 28th, where 6 states were scheduled. Our state, Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, Delaware, and Rhode Island. Maryland moved its date forward in the calendar into June. So I just don't see a way through for Biden. And Biden last night made an appeal in his talk, virtual reality, by the way. He made his talk to the Sanders people and the young voters, asking them to come on. He's already moved on to the general election.
Right.
Biden.
Now, here's a question for you. And Donald Trump, of course, became the official candidate for the Republicans. No secret there. But here's what's interesting. Do we, if you move on to the main race, and Biden obviously moving on wisely probably to President Trump, do you risk, again, because all these other primaries now are going to become relatively academic, do you risk boring the American people? I mean, obviously politics has kind of come in second here for the moment with the coronavirus occupying the interest of the country. Do you risk boring the American people, or maybe being unseemly to the American people talking about President Trump during this time? Do you have to be really careful if you're Joe Biden?
Well, sure, but I think, look at the huge polarization that exists, with Democrats not happy with the way Trump's been handling the coronavirus situation. Republicans much more likely to support the president. But remember, there's the coverage of the campaign is minimal. I mean, you almost didn't know there was a primary.
That's
there were primaries going on. Yep. And so I think most of the attention is going to be on the coronavirus, and there'll be some virtual campaigning by Biden and obviously by Sanders, who, if he stays in, is going to have to figure out, is there any way to get back in this contest? I don't think so. I just think it's going to move into – it's now in second place.
Yeah.
If we didn't have corona, it would be in first place. It's all that we would be talking about. But now the coverage is going to be secondary. I've had news people call me, and we're talking about it, and they admit that it's in second place. You know what I mean? That there's not the kind of interest in the media. The media is corona, 95% of the coverage. And my sense is that the public won't be bored, largely because they're not
paying attention,
witnessing it, minute by minute, hour by hour.
And the other interesting dichotomy here, Terry, we have about a minute left, is this, that in a time where Americans are generally, I say, unifying around what do we do to defeat this common enemy, the idea of divisive talk of any kind would probably be totally anathema to that, right?
Oh, I think you're right. I think what has to happen, and I've said this for weeks now, the polarization and the partisanship has to end.
Yes.
We're talking about the lives of Americans.
Right.
It was good to see the Democrats and the Republicans get together on relief packages, and even the majority leader in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, gets up and says, yep, we're going to pass the House bill. And, oh, by the way, there are other things that should be changed in it or added to it, but we're going to take that up in a separate piece of legislation immediately after we deal with the House-passed version. So I think you can argue that the response rate by the government, federal government, by the Trump administration was slow, and there's still much to be done. But
Sure.
I think there's growing unity about how to deal with it, although finally there are some Democratic governors who are upset with the president, and there's a bit of a cleavage going on there right now.
And yet at the same time, this is uncharted territory and untrod territory. Someone's holding the grass down on the path here, so it's important that we understand there's probably going to be mistakes all over the place right now, from governors to presidents, but at the same time, we do have to coalesce around them. Terry, always good talking to you. Thank you for taking time to be on our podcast this morning. We really appreciate it.
Talk to you next week.
Be safe, my friend. Thank you so much.
You too. Bye-bye.
Dr. Terry Madonna here. And don't forget to listen to WSBA Morning News with Gary Sutton, 6 to 9 weekdays on News Talk 93.9 and 910 WSBA.